Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, everybody. Hey, let me know how you are, where you're from, all that good stuff. And also, if you could, let me know how the audio is, just because I am attempting to use my computer mic instead of my actual mic. So I'm just wondering how the audio is compared to how I usually sound. I sound okay? You guys hear me okay? Well, hopefully you'll let me know in the comments here. So today today is one of those days where, or not, I shouldn't say one of those days. Hey, Pam. A bit echoey. Okay, cool. Well, I am going to plug in my other mic, and then you can let me know if this is better. Yeah. So do you guys ever have one of those days where you're you look at the clock, like I guess it's not a whole day, it's just a moment in time. But I looked at the clock a bunch of times to prepare for this, like, I don't really prepare, but to get on and do this show. And I would look at the time and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what time it is. And it wasn't registering in my brain. So finally I was like, oh my, like, why am I not moving yet? I should be moving. Okay. So there, now I plugged in the new mic. Let me see if I need to change the audio. Yeah. Okay. So this should be my new mic. If you could, Pam and or anybody else, if you could let me know how this sounds. Let me know if it sounds better. Yeah, I was just, I'm looking at the clock and it's like 10 of 6 or a quarter of 6. Hey, Jenny. And I'm like, oh yeah, I should get going. I should start the show here. I should get over there. Pam, sounds better. Jenny's saying it sounds fine. Okay, cool. So note to self, keep using the microphone. I've been wondering that. So thank you for helping me. Yeah, I was just looking at the clock. It's like, 20 of 6. And I'm like, oh, plenty of time. Quarter of 6. Yeah. 10 of 6. Yeah, I should get moving. Then it's like a minute or two after that. I'm like, Glenn, like, why are you not moving? Why are you not going over to your computer? I'm like, oh, yeah. I got to go to my computer. So here we are. And what we're going to discuss today is the benefits of living spiritually. And this came kind of at me a few different ways over the last few days. And one of the ways that it came was a really fond memory of mine that I have not thought of in probably years. And I was speaking with somebody and that reference kind of popped up into my head. And this was many years ago. I don't know how many, but I'm going to guess somewhere around 15 years ago, give or take a couple of years. And I was talking with my cousin Jeff. and we were talking, and I was living my life differently by then. So I had had a few years of living differently and really standing in my spirituality and making decisions based in integrity and spiritual principles. And so I had lived it for a while after 20 years of being dysfunctional. So like I had changed, not like I changed when I woke up, but then to live it and actually stand in it physically, you have to do that too, to make it part of you and part of your life and who you are. So I was talking to him about it, and this line came out of my mouth, and I don't remember if it caught my attention at that time, but I don't know if it hit me right then or if I started thinking about it later and it hit me. But it was this profound moment that I kind of realized how amazing a journey that I was on. So after, living through spiritual principles in difficult situations several times, like I said, I was a different person. So I was talking to my cousin, and I said, I can honestly say that if my son turns out like me, that would make me happy. And that was a statement, and like, when I think about that, that's huge. That was huge, because I didn't like myself most of my life. And, very judgmental towards myself and others, of course. But like, to sit there, how much you love your children, right? You just, my God, you love your child so much. You want the best for them. And to be able to sit there and honestly feel in my heart that if my son turned out to be the type of man that I was, that I would like that, and that I would be proud of him as a person. And it's like that, like, to me, there's not much more powerful a statement than that. Because like I said, you want the best for your child. So to sit there and think, if they turned out like me, and I didn't mean like me, like doing the type of work that I do or anything like that. It was just the type of man that I am, the type of human being, the type of person, the way I lived by the principles in which I lived. I lived by integrity and truth and honesty and kindness. And I don't do any of them perfect, but I do them to the best of my ability. And I really try. And I really, try to treat people with respect. And it's like, so to be able to sit there and be like, if my son walks through life treating people with respect and being kind and acting out of integrity and honesty, and like, if he does those things to the same level that I'm doing them, that would make me happy. That would make me happy as a father. And it's amazing. And it's funny. I, with that example, I didn't know that I was going to bring this up, but it's perfect. It's like, okay, so that was 15 years ago, whatever, if it was 15 years ago, he was 6. So now you fast forward to him 21, and, he starts sending me Snapchats of him shaving his head, which I like because, he sends me Snapchats. But like, I like that he didn't talk to me about this before. He just started sending me snapshots of him shaving his head. And then he shaved his head. And then after he was all done, it took him a while because he had, he didn't know what he was doing. It was his first time shaving his head. So he had to, and his hair was kind of long, not long like mine in the back, but he had long hair on the top. So he had to cut it all and then shave it and all this stuff. And afterwards, I said, why did you decide to do that? And he said, well, mostly because Elise shaved her head yesterday because she's going through cancer treatments. And I wanted to do this to support her. And I'm just like, this is where it ends up. What are the benefits of living spiritually? That's the benefits. And that's just scratching the surface, but it's huge. It's huge to sit there and you can do this with yourself. If we're just going to stick with the child reference for a minute. This whole thing isn't going to be about children, but if you're a parent, and you sit there and you go, if my child turns out to be like me, like the way that I handle situations, the principles in which I live my life to the best of my ability, if they turn out like me, is that going to make me happy? And if it's not, you just make adjustments. That's all. It's not, it doesn't mean you're a bad person or anything like that. It just means that you have some adjustments you need to make. But if you can say that and just really feel it in your heart to be true, that's huge, huge. Because that it's kind of I always look for backdoor ways. This is why, to me, it's so huge. Like, I always look for backdoor ways to circumvent your ego and get to the truth. Okay, so when you're circumventing your ego, you come at things from a different way, right? So if I sit there and I go, do I love myself? Yes. Do I love the principles in which I act out, behave in life, honesty, integrity? Do I do those to the best of my ability? And do I think I do a decent job at that? And do I love myself for these things? Like, you can do that and you can feel it. And most situations, that's enough. But this is kind of like a double check, because you're not talking about you anymore. So there's no chance of your ego going, hey, yeah, Glenn, you're a wonderful person. Hey, you do your best, bucko. Like, your ego will tell you that, and you won't even recognize that that's your ego. Okay. This circumvents that. It's because it's not about you anymore. Now it's about your kid. And you love your kid. So it's like, if they turned out interacting with life the same way that I interact with life, would I be proud of them? Would that make me happy? Yes. If the answer is yes, then so at first I might strike up some fear, but if the answer is yes, then bravo. If it's not, then you just make some changes, but it's that important, because that's one of our benefits. Because now like I said, you fast forward 21 years or 15 years later, and I see my son as a man making his own decisions, choosing to do things out of integrity, choosing to do things out of kindness and support and compassion. Like, wow, like what an amazing feeling it is to see your child that you raised act like that, and it's a culmination. I mean, I don't take all the credit, but hell, I'll take some. I was there on a consistent basis showing him how to live like this, So it's wonderful. So that's a gigantic benefit. If you have children, even if you don't, I think you can wrap your brain around it. But if you have children, I mean, that's a big deal, So that's one of the benefits, is just being able to look at yourself in the mirror and going, I love me. I love myself. I love the person I am. I'm proud of myself. And I'm proud of the role model that I'm being for my child. That's a huge benefit to living spiritually. Let's see. I'm going to just take a quick look at some of these comments. Well, thank you, Jenny. I'm a great person. You have definitely evolved, but you're always a good person. Yeah, I think I was deep down. And the people who knew me my whole life, many people have said that, which means a lot because I didn't feel like a good person when I was younger. You know, I can see now that I was. And when I was acting out, doing all my dysfunctional stuff, that wasn't me. That was me lashing out, you know. But yeah, you know, there's, and it's not just me though, you know, either the way I look at it. I mean, everybody's a good person underneath, you know. I mean, whenever somebody's acting out, there's a motive, there's a reason, you know. So, but thank you, Jenny. I appreciate that. Um, Tell me that you're a reflection of your parents, Jenny. Yeah, I can see that. Your parents were wonderful people. You know, I knew them pretty well growing up, and I can see that. You know, you really put yourself out there to help other people. Yeah, Mateo is a wonderful, wonderful little man. Hey, Michelle and Lisa are here. So we got Jenny in Massachusetts. We have Pam in New Mexico. We have Michelle in Panama. We have Lisa in Rhode Island. Man, we're jacking it up today. I like it. Okay. And Pam, I love that my sons have grown their hair long and then cut it off for wigs for kids with cancer. I like to think that they get the caring humans from the examples my husband and I demonstrated. Yeah, you know, absolutely. You know, when your kids are out there doing this stuff, it's such a joy. Um, so next, like, you know, the spiritual. Lisa's driving, heading to a Reiki share. Awesome. Well, maybe that might be at your sister Sue's house. um, so, well, I'm gonna stick with this, and I'll double back to the other thing. You're going to live life. Okay, so this is a concept that I think is helpful to swallow. You're going through life, like, period. You know, like, it's so funny, we overcomplicate stuff, right? You're going to go through life. Like, let's just shrink it down a little bit. You're going to go through the next 10 years. It's going to happen, right? Time doesn't stop. So you're going to go through the next 10 years. So your choice really comes down to, do you want to live by spiritual principles? And all I mean by living spiritually is by spiritual principles. Are you acting out of integrity? Are you being honest with yourself? Are you being open-minded? Are you attempting to the best of your ability to be kind to people and loving? And, you know, and I mean, if these answers are yes, 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 then you're not listening. Because nobody does this stuff perfectly. And I'm not saying that you should look at yourself and punish yourself or beat yourself up or judge yourself. What I'm saying is we need to learn to be honest with ourselves. And most people are not. You know, and I believe most people are good people. I think basically everybody is a good person. So I'm not saying that people aren't good people. I'm saying you need to slow down and see how you're interacting with other people and situations in life. Are you gossiping at the water cooler? That is a huge problem. Are you complaining on a regular basis? That is a big problem. Like, we have to start doing these things because nobody thinks that they're the problem. Nobody, like, you know, go on online dating. There's nobody's profile that says, I'm a negative, complaining pain in the ass, and I'm what's wrong with society. Nobody's profile says that. And yet, if you go, if you online date and go on enough dates, you're going to find several of those people, right? But yet their profile doesn't say that. Why? Well, because they don't think that of themselves. We all rationalize our own behavior. So we have to, this is why it's so important to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. And I'm not saying we have to do it perfectly. And I'm not saying we have to judge ourselves. What we have to do is be honest with ourselves. Honest critiques. If you're, if you're practicing it, even when you screw up, being honest with screwing up is important. Because a lot of people, they go, well, like if you catch them telling a lie, you go, well, that's, you lied. And they go, well, I'm not a liar. Like, I'm not a liar. I just told a lie. It's like, yeah, that's what a liar is. A liar tells lies. That's what they do. So if you're telling lies, yes, you are a liar. Now, if you told a lie once, I get it. Let's be reasonable about this. I wouldn't run around going, oh, that person's a liar because they told a lie once in an extreme situation. That's not, I get it. I'm not saying that, but you have to be honest and say, I lied. Most people, what they do is they say, well, it was just a white lie, or, well, I didn't want to make the other person feel bad. Or you don't understand, they lied to me first, or they make excuses and they rationalize it. See, so this is the problem. We have to be honest with ourselves and just be like, when I got sober, I found out that the three things necessary for change were open-mindedness, honesty, and willingness. And I still believe that to this day. And like, I decided to be honest. When I looked at myself, I was kind of honest anyway. I think I was more honest than most people, even as an alcoholic. But what I found was that I wasn't honest with myself at all. I was pretty honest with other people because I didn't really give a crap what other people thought too much. Like I was pretty strong in my path. So even when it was negative, or maybe especially when it was negative, but, like, I wasn't honest with myself, though. That's what I found out. I would rationalize behaviors and make excuses for why I did things. And I found out that you can't make excuses for your behaviors. They're just behaviors. And sometimes if you do the wrong thing, like if you tell a lie, or if you get triggered and lash out, like, it's more important to be honest with yourself and say, wow, I fell short there. I fell short there. Yeah, I could have handled that better. I wonder what I could do to handle it better next time. This is what we need to do instead of rationalizing the behavior. Like, well, you would have lied too. It was an extreme situation. No, don't put your shit on me. Like, I love it when people do that. Oh, you would have done the same thing. Like, you don't freaking know me. Like, obviously, if you were to say that, you don't know me. But it's, don't rationalize complaining and telling white lies and all these little negative behaviors that are in our lives, and character assassinating people and all this judging people and all these things. As a general rule, most people, quite possibly everybody, does that in society, including me. It's just that I own it when I do it, and I try to not do it more and more and more and more. So I do it less and less and less and less and less. So I don't do it much at all, right? So it's not that I never do it, but I'm able to be honest and say that. So that while doing the work to try to do it less and to try to be better. This is what we need to do. So be honest with yourself. Don't rationalize these negative behaviors. If you're in society, you are behaving negatively as a general rule. And if you think you're not, you're probably not looking at yourself close enough. I mean, most likely. Who knows? There might be a few saints among you, but they're very, very few. So back to that. That's an important point, I think. Back to you're going to live your life. You're going to walk the next 10 years. So how do you want to walk it? Like, that's your choice. And that is, like, you can walk it by not working on yourself. You can walk it by rationalizing your behavior. And what do you think you're going to be like in 10 years if every time you tell a white lie, you rationalize why it's okay? Do you think you'll end up telling more white lies or less white lies? Of course, you're going to tell more. Why? Because you rationalize that it's okay to do it. And sometimes it makes situations easier, so you just do it. So of course, so you're going to be getting worse. You're going to be telling more lies 10 years from now than you are today just by rationalizing it. Same thing with complaining. Same thing with any negative behavior. So it's not about trying to do it perfectly tomorrow. What it's about is getting the principles in which you want to live your life, like integrity and honesty, and start doing that little by little. And when you fall short, you just make an adjustment. That's the original, at least I heard that. I heard this a long time ago and it stuck with me. I haven't researched it yet, but that the original meaning of sin is to miss the mark. That's it. It's just, I missed the mark. Like an archer misses the mark. That's the example that they used. So you're aiming for the bullseye and you get in a little yellow circle around it. Almost. So you try again, right? That's the original meaning of sin. So this is why I like saying we missed the mark, like we're trying to do our best. It's okay. You don't have to hit a bullseye every time, but you just try to hit the bullseye. You do the best of your ability. And if you stick with the archer reference, right? So if you're aiming for the bullseye and you let go and that arrow misses the board completely and shoots off and goes and, hits a bird in a tree because there's nowhere near even the target. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to make an adjustment? Yeah, hopefully. You go, whoops, oh my God, it's horrible. My God, I completely missed the entire board. Okay, I need to make an adjustment here. What did I do wrong? What can I do better? Oh, okay, and then you try, and then you at least hit the board. You're like, okay, cool, better. Okay. And so this is what we need to do with our lives. That's our walk. It's not to try to do it perfectly. It's to be honest with ourselves and make adjustments as we go. Oh, I just heard something. I think I just heard something about this morning. It's so weird how all this stuff comes rushing in when I start talking about it. I think somebody shared something with me or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter where I got it, but somebody was using the reference of a heat-seeking missile. That's what we are. A heat-seeking missile is constantly making adjustments because its target that's creating the heat is constantly moving. So it has to constantly make adjustments to keep up with it, right? This is how we are. We have to go through life constantly making adjustments. So we can get better and better at hitting our target, which is being a good, loving person. Right? So we're going to walk these next 10 years. Do you want to be better than you were 10 years from now? Or do you want to have more bad habits? Or do your bad habits more often? Right? That's one aspect. But as you're walking these 10 years, you can use that 10-year period for lots of things. Like, do you want to experience a lot of suffering? Do you want to argue a lot in the next 10 years? No? Okay. Well, then what you need to do is you need to practice 10 spiritual principles like setting boundaries and things like this, so you can not argue for the next 10 years. I've used, we have to have some long-term thinking because we rationalize our behaviors too often. So that's what this 10 years does, is it goes, okay, like, how can I be better off 10 years from now than I am now? Like, well, by setting boundaries. Because see, when people think about setting boundaries, they're like, it feels confrontational, and sometimes it is, and it feels uncomfortable, and there's fear there, and you don't know how the other person is going to react, and it might cause more problems, right? So people like, oh my God, I don't want to set boundaries. It's just going to cause more problems. If I stand up to them, they're going to push back twice as hard. It's like, yeah, probably. But if you stay standing there in your boundary when they push back twice as hard, then what are they going to do? Well, maybe push back 3 times as hard or 4 times as hard. Yeah, maybe. So then if you stand in your boundary, then what? Well, eventually they're just going to have to either go away or submit to your boundary. Right. So then, so like if you do that now, like if you look at 10 years, right? And it could be a work situation, family situation, relationship, whatever. Like if you don't set a boundary, where are you going to be 10 years from now? It's going to be worse. If they are abusing you now, mentally, emotionally, verbally, whatever, and you don't want to stand up to them because you don't want the confrontation, it's going to be worse 10 years from now. Like why would if somebody can treat you however they want and get whatever they want out of it, why would they stop? Whether they just going to suddenly have a spiritual awakening and go, oh, I ain't putting my future in somebody else's hands like that. So, but if you set the boundary, yeah, something in the beginning, living spiritually, it's not a bypass. It's not going around problems. It's facing them, dealing with them, and transcending them. So then you can be living in a reality 10 years from now without this person crapping on you. If you don't, they're going to crap on you, and it's going to be worse. So do you see, it's like, use some long-term thinking to see where you're going, because we have to stop rationalizing our behavior. Oh, it's hard. So is getting abused every day. Like what? It's amazing the rationalization that we do. Like, I might do another podcast on this. I was thinking the other day, actually, I made some notes on it. I think I have it here. Like, what percentage of people dislike and I came up with, I think, just the 3 probably biggest areas. What percentage of people do you think dislike their spouse, their job, or the location in which they live? Which could be a city, it could be a state, it could be just the house or apartment that they're in, but where they live. Like, what percentage of people do you think don't like one of those things and isn't doing anything about it? Do you realize that people on a regular basis rationalize 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of their life to put up with something in one of those categories, like a relationship, what were they? A relationship, a job, or a location? Do you know people will stay in that and rationalize why they can't change it? You can change that. Anybody can change where they live. Anybody can change their job. Anybody can change their relationship. Now, it might take, depending on your circumstance, it might take 6 months, might take a year, might take 5 years, might take 10 years. Oh my God. So lean in the direction of it. Start chipping away at it. Eventually, you're going to change it. Everything changes in this world, unless you choose to keep it the same. And even then, it changes certain degrees. It gets worse, is what it does. You like it less. Like, if you don't like your job, your relationship, or your location, Like, unless, if it's just your perspective and you change your perspective, then fine. But if you really don't like it, it's not going to get better. The world, everything is in constant movement. Nothing stays the same. So it's either going to get better or it's going to get worse. What do you want to do? It's another simplified way of talking about those 10 years. Your life is going to get better or worse during those 10 years. How are you going to spend your time? Rationalizing why you can't make changes, or why your poor behavior is necessary because society's pressures, or some other BS reason why you rationalize your behavior. Like, are you going to do that for 10 years and then see where you land? Or are you going to live by spiritual principles, constantly getting better and better and better, and being happier and happier and happier, right? And being able to navigate things better and better. See, that's the point. Like, if you learn how to set boundaries, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but you set boundaries with somebody that's difficult, then all of a sudden you get better at setting boundaries. Not only does that situation shift for the better, either they're gone or they learn to stand in your boundaries, because if it's a real boundary, those are the only two options. So if you find yourself listening to this and going, well, you don't understand, I tried setting boundaries and they didn't work. Well, that's because you didn't set a boundary. That's not a boundary. If a boundary does not require the other person's agreement or participation, that's not what a boundary is. So go listen to my other podcasts on boundaries. A boundary has two options. Either the person respects your boundary and stands by it, or they're out. Like, I don't know what out looks like. It depends on the situation. They might be out of your life. You might not choose to hang out with them anymore. You might choose to not socialize with them anymore. You might choose to only talk to them about stuff that's not important stuff. You might minimize the time you spend with them, like whatever. The point is like, you stop allowing that behavior. You stop allowing them to behave like that towards you. They're no longer in a, like, okay, well, I'll hang up. Oh, what if it's my mother? So your mother has the right to abuse you. And you think you're going to love yourself? Like, no, if you allow people to abuse you, then your self-love is going to suffer. Now, I'm not saying that there's not other things. Of course, we don't have to cut everybody out of our lives. I'm not even going to go down that road, because hopefully you guys are following me. Like, if you're listening to this stuff and the ego is going, every time I say something, I'll generalize here. If your ego goes all the way to the end, well, I'm not going to cut everybody out of my life. Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. There's other ways. Okay, listen to the other podcast. But setting boundaries creates a better future. So and it makes the next 10 years better, more enjoyable, with less controversy. This is people like, I don't want to set boundaries because I don't like confrontation. All right, that's understandable. So you have to deal with confrontation at some point in life. You have to. You can't just not confront anything and expect to be happy. So you're going to have confrontation. So you can either have a confrontation now, or you can have it later, but you're going to have it. If somebody is treating you dysfunctionally, you're going to have confrontation. Just sitting there getting abused on a daily basis is confrontation. So, so what happens is you get better at it, and then you do it in more situations, and then you have less controversy. I don't have to deal with I don't deal with a bunch of people treating me disrespectfully in my life. Nobody treats me disrespectfully in my life. I don't have, so like some people who haven't done this work yet, they haven't tried this yet. They're like, well, they think they're victims of everybody else. It's like, well, you just got to put up with crap from people. And no, you don't. No, you don't. That's a lie. You do not have to put up with crap from people. That's not a societal rule. We say this stuff like it's just second nature, and we have to start letting go of this stuff. This social conditioning is a load of crap. It's in our mind, you know. I mean, the very idea that we think that the 1% can control the 99%. I mean, it's absurd. Why would you think that? Why would you think that the 1% can control us? They are controlling the 99% right now, or most of it. That, I mean, they're not really controlling me, but they're controlling 90% of the world. The 1% is. Why? Because they can? No, it's because the people sit there walking around drinking a Kool-Aid going, yeah, nothing you can do. I don't know. These people voted on something that I don't like. I mean, it's, boy, I really wish the government would change. Like, why? Like, well, why do they have power over you? We have the power. We have to start changing. We are sovereign beings. We need to start making our life our responsibility and stop handing it off to other people. By setting boundaries, designing the life that we want to live, we have more control over how people treat us than we think. So like I said, like I set boundaries with people. Like after I woke up, I'm interacting with people, and some of them I've known, some of them are new. And when somebody crossed the line with me, there was a boundary set. So it's like, okay, so I set a boundary. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, that person isn't crapping on me. And then a lot of times it even bleeds into other people around them. Like, well, you don't overstep the line with Glenn. And it doesn't really matter to me what they tell themselves. If they want to tell themselves, well, Glenn's a jerk and he has too many boundaries, well, that's okay. You have the right to your opinion. I mean, I'm not for everybody. And people like that don't understand why I set boundaries, that it's just, I'm designing my way of life and I like to be treated a certain way, and that's my responsibility. So I take that responsibility seriously and I design the life that I choose. If people don't understand that mentality, that's okay. They can think I'm a jerk, and then they can not be in my life if they choose, or they can choose to stand by my boundary. They have free will. I'm not making them stay in my life, and I'm not trying to make them stay in my life. When I set a boundary, I'm completely okay accepting either outcome. Either they accept the boundary or they leave my life. Or like I said, there's other minor, smaller scenarios than leaving my life. But I'm just trying to keep this simple to make the point. I'm okay with either one. And I make sure that before I set the boundary, because that's what we do. People go, they set boundaries and they think it's to control the other person. No, setting boundaries is not about control. It's about self-love. See, that's the difference. When you do what I say because that's my boundary, that's control, and you're pointing the finger at them. The energy is going out towards them, and topic of conversation is about them. You need to change. You need to treat me the way that I want to be treated. You're doing something wrong and you need to stop that. And that's control. I don't do it out of that energy. I do it out of self-love. I do it. I don't like being treated like that. So don't treat me like that. I don't like being treated like that. So don't do that. It's not about, it's not, I'm not saying that you did something wrong. See, the wording is very close, but if you pay attention to the energy underneath the wording, you can see the difference between self-love and frustration. Frustration is all about the other person. You're doing something wrong. It's like, no, they can walk up. Like if somebody yelled at me, right, and say, wait a minute, hold on, don't yell at me. Like, it's just, I don't do well when people yell at me. It's just, I have to talk calmly and we can have a conversation. That's cool. Yelling, it just doesn't work with me. See, that's about me. I'm not saying you shouldn't yell at people. It's not you're a bad person because you yell at people and you have to stop yelling at people and it's not right and you're wrong. That's frustration, and it's about them. Self-love is about me. I don't like people yelling at me. Well, I yell at everybody. Okay, that's cool. Go yell at everybody. I could care less. It's none of my business how you live your life. If you think yelling at people is a good freaking idea, God bless you. Keep yelling. I don't care. Don't do it to me because I don't like it. That's all. I'm not going to have you yelling at me. It's not going to happen. And I've done that with many people, bosses included, in their office. And they kept yelling. And you know what I did? I stood up and walked out. I'm like, where are you going? I told you, I don't sit here getting yelled at. It doesn't happen. Period. It's not happening. So one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to stop yelling or I'm going to walk out. But what's not going to happen is you continue yelling at me. Ain't going to happen. I can guarantee you that. But it's about me. It's about my boundaries. You know, I'm not trying to, I don't care if they agree with my boundary. I don't care if they think that they should be able to yell at Glenn. Okay, go home and make a quilt that says I should be able to yell at Glenn and post it on the internet and form a support group. I could give two shits. I don't care. My point is, you're not going to yell at me. Period. It's not going to happen. No job is worth it. None. And most times, you know, it's amazing with the job thing. You can really see this in the job thing. We're so conditioned to fear losing our jobs. And it's like most of the time there's HR departments there. Like it's pretty hard to get fired because you refuse to get yelled at. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's situations that it can happen. But most people think that they have to be yelled at. Like, I mean, it happened to me. If you polled people, I bet you 90% of the people that you polled that are in this situation, if you could actually get a group like that, that allows their bosses to yell at them, I bet you if you polled them, at least 90% of them would say, oh, well, I have to, or else I'll get fired. And that's not true. I mean, like I said, I've had this happen at jobs and I didn't allow it. And other people at my job with the same boss was going, yeah, but if I say anything, he'll fire me. It's like, no, I said something. He didn't fire me. You know, it's just a belief system. It's not actually true. So what you're doing, what my point here is, this is an example, but there's multiple things like this as far as setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is just such a good example. But acting out of love, acting out of integrity, being honest, not complaining, all this stuff, what it does is it makes your life better and better and better and better and better as you walk. You get happier and happier. You love yourself more. Your self-esteem rises. People screw with you less. You enjoy your life more. This is like, that's one of the reasons why, you know, like I do all this stuff, because it's long-term thinking. Do I like, you know, setting boundaries with every Tom, Dick, and Harry? No, not really. But I know what the alternative is. Have every Tom, Dick, and Harry give me crap on a regular basis. And I don't like that. So I just set the boundary every once in a while. And once you get used to doing it, it's really not that big of a deal. You know, it's actually kind of fun. It's empowering to stand. That's what you got to be careful. You set boundary too good to you'll feel that empowerment. You'll get addicted to it. You'll be starting to set boundaries with everybody. Shut up. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like that. Like, relax a little bit, you know. But it is very empowering. But you get like, slow down and understand what life is. Life is what happens in between now and 10 years in this example, right? It's how you walk through. It's what your daily life looks like. This is how I make my choices. This is why I like what my daily life consists of. My daily life consists of certain things. It consists of living and working in a peaceful environment up in the mountains. It so happens to end up in the mountains of the DR. My life consists of, as a general rule, nobody giving me a hard time or yelling at me or abusing me in any way. My life consists of people who believe in love and treating with one another with kindness. My life consists of being surrounded by a lot of those people. There's very few people that are angry that are in my life. My life consists of the people who are in my life, including my family. I have good, healthy relationships with. We respect one another, and we don't disrespect one another. We don't yell at one another. You know, we have good, healthy relationships. So my life consists of that stuff. Why? Because I designed it that way. It wasn't an accident. It didn't just happen. I live in the same world that you guys live in. So it happened. And I was dysfunctional victim for 20 years. So I was knee deep in that reality, pseudo reality that everybody else is in, that I'm trying to pull people out of, because I was in it for 20 years. I felt like I couldn't talk back to my boss. I felt like I couldn't set boundaries. I felt like all this stuff, so now that I know different, I try to explain it to you guys. So you can know that there's another way to live, and you can actually design your life. And if you spend the time and effort designing your life differently like this, not only does the space in between, the daily life that fills up the space in between the next 10 years, not only is that more enjoyable because you deal with less crap and less people that you don't like, and you spend more time doing and enjoying healthy, loving, wonderful things that you do enjoy. Not only then, but then at the end of 10 years, once you get there, you love yourself more. You like your daily life. You like your life. Like, I don't know how else to say it. You like your life. That's huge. But it doesn't just, nobody trips and falls and lands in a life that they like. I mean, I do. I see Tony, and I'm going to read Tony's, my friend Tony's comments. As I'm saying this, I'm like, Tony is a unique dude, man. He was happy when we were teenagers. Like, he gets this stuff. Like, some people, like I had to learn this stuff through spiritual lessons and spiritual awakenings and all this stuff. And Tony's one of those people that just kind of had this in him when he was young. He just knew this stuff. He just didn't lean into the drama and the negativity and stuff like that when we were young. And he stuck with it his whole life, from what I understand. So it's cool. Some people are just naturally good at this. And he's one, I think. So let's see. What's Tony's comments about? So many people need to hear this message and understand it's not just listen. So many people I watch that are always claiming to be the victim, but never willing to do anything to make their lives better. It's always somebody else's fault, something else, just excuse after excuse, instead of taking control of their lives. I need to stay out of other people's lives, always, in people's businesses for no reason. Great message. Yeah, that's it. It's people just rationalize. Nothing's their fault. I've learned to only keep positive people in my life. A long time ago, I learned to keep the negativity away. I try not to complain about other people or what they have going on in their lives, because it's none of my business. I can only control me and my actions and how happy I want to be. Now I seem to be happy all the time and enjoying life so much better that I'm not always worrying about, they're not doing this right, or they're doing this or whatever. It's none of my business. That's it, Tony. So it's, this is what I mean. Like, I call it spiritual principles and try to put words to it and all this stuff, but it's just in alignment with life. That's all. It's just in alignment with nature's values. Like, you don't have to be a spiritual teacher or even a spiritual seeker to enhance your life. Like, it's just, this is the stuff. I keep positive people in my life. I keep negativity away. I try not to complain about other people. Most of the stuff, I can only control me and my actions and how happy I want to be. Do you see that? That's all this is. That's all this is there isn't some magical spiritual freaking experience you need to have. You know, like you just need to understand, look at this stuff and slow down. Because I mean, if you slow down and you look at this, that's kind of all it takes. Okay, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to stop making excuses, and I'm going to listen to what Tony wrote. I've learned to keep positive people in my life. Can I do that? Well, I imagine I could. What would that look like if I were to do that? Well, if I meet people and they're really negative, maybe I just won't call them to go do stuff. And if I see them at work, I'll just kind of keep the conversation light. And like I do this all the time. Like I don't cut people out of my life, basically, as a general rule. It's happened very, very, very few times in the last 18 years. Most of the time, it's just like if I get a bad feeling about somebody or they start acting like dramatic or negative or stuff like that, I just and let's just say I work with them, right? I just minimize my conversations with them. Why? Because I don't like talking about negative stuff. So I'm just like, so we have very, very surfacey, very short conversations. And sometimes I'll tell them, you know, I don't really like talking about negativity. Sometimes I don't. Whatever. It's like, because they'll connect with other people that like to talk about that. So I don't need to fight against them. You know, everything is energy. I can just starve that relationship. If there's somebody I work with that's negative, I just starve it. I don't spend a lot of time with them. I give them one word answers a lot. I just don't feed the relationship. I don't feed the conversations. I starve the relationship. I starve the conversation. I just don't put any energy towards it. And then all of a sudden I find them not around. And it's a beautiful thing. And then when I see somebody positive that is around me, I'll try to feed that. I'll be like, you know, when I'm sitting there going, hey, I want to go do something. Who should I call? Well, this person, or this person. Well, that one's negative. Okay, well, I'm not going to call that person. Well, yeah, but I called these other two people and they weren't able to. So I'm going to go expose myself to negativity and feed a negative relationship because I don't feel like either going and doing something alone or I don't feel like just sitting home. Well, I have to make my choice. And I'm not willing to have negativity in my life. So I choose to either go do it alone or I choose to not do it. But I would rather not do something or go do it alone than to go do it with somebody negative. Because then I'm just feeding that relationship and they're going to be in my life more, which I don't want. So you get the beauty of living by these principles is you get like your life gets consistently better, right? And so you get less people treating you like crap. You like your life more. You're happier. You're more in control of your experiences. Boom, boom, boom. So not only does it get better and you experience the benefits every time, like sometimes it'll get rocky if you're setting a boundary and you're going through a little period, maybe with a family member or a spouse or whatever. And it might go on for 3 months, 6 months, a year, sometimes, whatever. It's worth it. What's the alternative? This is what we have to get. What is the alternative? Let's say you have to go through hell for a year. You're kind of already in hell because you're living a life being treated in a way that you don't want to be treated. So that's kind of like hell anyway. So is this a little bit more extreme version of hell? Maybe. Maybe they're going to throw a temper tantrum when you start setting boundaries. Maybe that'll happen, right? So if it does, it can increase the intensity of the uncomfortability, but it's only for a short period of time. Then you have the rest of your life to live the benefits of it, literally. Like so even if you have to go through 1 year of hell, then you get the rest of your life. It could be 20 years, 50 years of benefits because of that 1 year. I will take that trade every time because what's the alternative? Not doing that. Okay, what do I get if I don't do it, Bob? Well, tell them what they've won, Bob. you get a lifetime of misery. Congratulations. So do you want a lifetime of misery or do you want 1 year of misery? I'll take the 1 year. Thank you. We must do long-term thinking. And this is something sometimes, like, people do not feel good treating us like crap. It feeds their ego, so this is why they do it, and it kind of seems like it feels good to them in certain egoic, surfacey ways. But in their soul, in their true beingness, it doesn't feel good. You can't put out crap and feel love. Like, you can't abuse people and feel good about yourself. It's literally impossible. So, like, at some level, unconsciously, they're suffering. They don't like themselves. So when you're setting boundaries, like, let's say you're setting boundaries with somebody that is not on board with you setting boundaries, and you're the only one in this, let's say it's a relationship, and you're the only one that's setting boundaries in a relationship. That's okay. The other person is probably going to kick and scream and throw temper tantrums because what they were doing before wasn't working. So they will revert back to how they were when they were a child, when what they were doing wasn't working, which a lot of times it's, yelling, temper tantrums, stomping out. It's usually either not talking to you. It's the fight, flight, or freeze responses. These are our go-tos when we're overwhelmed. So if somebody is treating you in a particular way that you don't like to be treated, is it beneficial to have them on board for change? Well, sure. I mean, if they can, but if they can't, that doesn't mean that this doesn't work. You can still set boundaries because you don't need their permission. You don't need their agreement. And a lot of times it gets uglier at first, and they kick and scream and fight and yell more, and it's worse, right? But what happens is if you stand in that boundary, eventually that behavior doesn't work. So therefore, they're not getting what they want. They're not getting the control over you. They're not getting you to do what they want. And if you refuse to allow them to yell at you and take it out on you or argue with you, if you refuse that too, then they're not releasing the pent up frustration energy that's within them. And when you're really frustrated, you just want to get it out of you, right? You want to take it out on somebody. I'm going to tell them, right? If you're not allowing them to put you on the whipping post and take it out on you, all that energy is sitting there. And they'll probably try bitching about you to their friends and family and stuff for a while to get it out of them because it's just toxic and they need to get it out, right? But if like they can't feed it through you if you won't engage. They can't feed that. So eventually they have to find a different way of interacting with you. At some point, when they're not able to lash out at you for how they feel inside, and they're not able to control what you do, no matter how they try, they can't control you, then eventually at some point they're going to give up or leave. And I mean, if there's some people that refuse to change, and if they have to leave, then they have to leave. But like, let's just say, like in my situation, well, before I do that. So what happens most often is after jamming the square peg into the round hole over and over and over and over and over and over again, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, and it not working, eventually they finally most people just go, this doesn't work, and I'm exhausted. They just run out of energy. It's just exhausting to be filled with that much hate and not be able to, and anger and frustration, and not be able to feed it in any way off the other person. They need other people to feed that energy. So if you're not giving them that outlet, then eventually they're not getting what they want. They'll change tactics. And then eventually they'll accept the reality of the situation and start interacting in a different way, most often. If not, And like, like in my situation through, the 18 years with my son, my ex just pretty much didn't change for the most part. But even in that case, it was still worth it because I just minimized exposure to it, right? It was like, oh, let's try to co-parent. Okay, it's just constant fighting and I'm not going to do constant fighting. Okay, then I guess we're not co-parenting. You parent the way you want in your house. I'll parent the way that I want in my house. Yeah, but that's not, I don't give a crap. That's what's going to happen. How is somebody going to come into my life and make me co-parent with them? They can't, right? So I set that boundary. Do it your way. No, we tried the co-parenting. All it ends up is arguments, and I'm not arguing, so we're not doing that. So my life got better, even though they didn't change. So this is what I'm saying. There's ongoing benefits to this. I just minimized my exposure to somebody that wanted to argue. Was I able to stop it altogether? No, not in those 18 years. No, but it made it much more manageable. And I provided a healthy, happy, loving, good energy home for my son half the time when he was living with his mom. And when he moved in with me full time, I was able to do that. Why? Because I stayed in these principles. I stayed living this way. And therefore, it gave him a consistent, loving environment in which to grow up in. He had other aspects. They get exposed to other things at his mother's house, at school, on a soccer field. There's all kinds of different things. He gets exposed to other things. It's not like he had a perfect life, but I was able to give him, and we had tons of fun, man. Go scroll my Facebook page for the last 15 years. Look at all the stuff we did. We had so much fun, and I raised a great kid. It's like this is the benefits. We get ongoing benefits and then we get long-term benefits. And then if you don't do it, what's the alternative? You get none of the benefits. You stay in Shitsville where you are now and nothing ever gets better. As a matter of fact, as a general rule, it usually gets worse. So it doesn't matter about the situation. It doesn't matter if the other person's on board. It doesn't matter if they ever change. Most of the time, I got to be honest with you, 90% of the people change because they just don't. Most people aren't that unconscious or that stubborn where if they're shown the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, that's healthy, they refuse to choose it just out of sheer spite. Most people aren't. They're just incapable of that. I'm sorry. And most people think that their person is like that. I know this is one of the comical things is like every time I explain this to somebody in like their personal life. I mean, if they know me, they don't usually say this, but like, and sometimes they still do. But people will be like, oh, you don't know my spouse. You don't know my boss. You don't know this person's really bad. Well, first off, it's going to work most of the time anyway. Second off, even if they don't change, you're still improving your life. So what was that thing I was going to go back to before I wrap it up? Oh, yeah. So, and this type of, you're going to go through difficult times. So if you're going to go through difficult times anyway, you might as well grow from them and come out better and living a more loving, fulfilling life while you're going through those difficult times. Because you're going to go through difficult times. So why not come out better instead of just hanging on and suffering until you get out through it? And then you're like, oh, I made it through that difficult time. That's what most people do. They hold their breath to try to get through the difficult time. And in some situations it works and some it doesn't. But like, even if it works, how do you define works? Like, I mean, you suffer. And then when you're over, you're still in the same space, susceptible to that type of suffering again. So did you make it? Like, yes, you made it through the worst, but there's another situation that's going to come that's equally as bad, if not worse than that one. And you're going to suffer again through that one. Like, why not work on yourself so you can handle difficulty better? Because then the cool thing about learning how to handle difficulty better is that it doesn't feel so difficult. Why? Because you're handling it better. So, like, I'll try to take something linear. So, like, if you have to deal with, like a family court thing where you have to go regularly, or a pissed off ex-spouse or something, like, if you learn to deal with it better, and they don't, and nothing changes on their end, well, your life's going to get better because it's not going to be that difficult. Like, they can still act the same way, but it doesn't trigger you. So you're like, yes, I understand. You hate me and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go about, okay, I'm going to just pick up our child and, and head out. Okay. Thank you. And, that's how it gets to it. After a while of practicing this, you don't get triggered. There's no emotional charge if you have to be exposed to what I call repeat offenders, people that you can't get away from, for a period of time because you're, tied to them for some reason. Those repeat offenders, sometimes you can't get away from them for a while. So it's just about minimizing and you handling it better. So, like, if they attack you now, you get all butt hurt and you're all freaked out and but then you work on yourself, and a year from now they attack you the same way and you're like, that's what they do. I don't take it personally anymore. It doesn't really bother me. And a lot of times that's what stops them, is because they can't get a rise out of you, right? But even if they continue attacking you for the next 18 years, okay, well, you handle it better. What's the alternative? Not handling it better? So you have 18 years of attacking and you getting triggered. That sounds like hell. Why would you want to do that? Why don't you learn to handle it better? And then, because that's in your control, you see? So basically, I think I'm going to sum it up and go through, like, when we do this work, when we take ourselves to the next level. So when we have to do something that's difficult, like, why? Sometimes we have to dig deep and find that fortitude to move forward. To go through these lessons and to set boundaries or handle controversy, even though we don't want to. Like, what's that motivation? What's that push? Why do it? Why? What's the benefit? And the way I see the benefits is, one, you have no choice. Like, once you start leaning into this stuff, the universe is expanding, the world is spinning, nothing stays the same, everything is moving. So you can't stay where you are. Things are going to either be getting better or they're going to be getting worse, and it's your choice. So, like, you can't stay where you are, and you can't go back in time. You can't unlearn what you've already learned. So you might as well just start going forward and do it to the best of your ability, because there's the alternatives. You kind of don't have any. Like I said, you can't go backwards. You can't unlearn. You can't pretend you're ignorant and go like, oh, well, no, I didn't know that setting boundaries was going to benefit my life, or I didn't know that I had control over my own circumstances and that I could choose happiness and design my own life. When you didn't know that, then you didn't know it. But if you know it now, you can't go back to not knowing that. There's no time machines. So like, you have to go forward. You have to lean in. Otherwise, you're just going to suffer. That's the only other choice is suffering. And what do you get out of it? You open up to more freedom, more love, more peace. That's what you get. You're able to interact, even if nothing changed, which just would never happen. Tons of stuff changes when you change. We live from the inside out, not the outside in. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, you did all this work and none of your external circumstances changed. You would, like I just explained, you would be interacting with those things differently. They wouldn't bother you so much, so you would still benefit. But the fact is once you do the inner work, this stuff, you have better people around you Life starts reflecting better situations back to you. You love yourself more. Your self-esteem rises. You have more gratitude, more love, more freedom in your heart. Like all good stuff comes from this, and nothing bad comes from it, ever. You can break the cycles for your children. How amazing is that? These cycles have been going on for 100,000 years of negativity and believing society's lies. You can break out of that yourself and be an example of a different way of living to your children. You can literally break generational cycles that goes back 100,000 years by doing this, by just trying to be a good person on a daily basis. That's how important this is. And not only that, but you're saving the world in the meantime. We're creating a new paradigm. How are we going to change the world? By electing the right person? I mean, please. The entire system is shot to hell, man. It was built to fail. Like the way we live, just stripping the earth and arguing with each other and hating others and having school shootings and all this stuff. You the bribery, the money funneling upwards. The system is shot, man. It was always designed to fail. So what we need people living differently. We need people that aren't victims. We need people that take control over their lives. We need people to be the change they wish to see in the world. Do it in your life. If you do it in your life and they do it in their life and they do it in their life, all of a sudden now we're a different society. We accept different things. And when somebody goes like, like just think about if you took control over your life and then your neighbor took control, and you can't control your neighbor. So don't worry about them. You just do what you can do. But can you imagine if a bunch of people in society stood up, took control of their life, and found out that they didn't have to put up with this crap and that they had power, within themselves as well as collectively, and they had love backing them. And then all of a sudden somebody in the government said, well, we have to strip your freedoms in the name of your own safety or because we have all the power. Let's just cut to it. We have all the power. And we have the military and we have the money. So you have to do what we say. So you have to do what we say now. So, and that's what we're going to do. If we had a society of people that knew how powerful they were and loved themselves and wasn't drunk by this dream of society and all these lies that society believes in now, they would literally get laughed out of office. They'd be like, you're gonna do what? No. You and 10,000 of your homies are gonna like come into our world with hundreds of millions of us, and you're going to tell us what to do, and we're going to do it. Why? No. And that's what it'll look like. See, this is how we're going to win. No. We don't have to fight. We don't have to create a military and fight their military. That's not how we're going to win this. This is not where we are in human history, is not where we were 2,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. Like, it's not about that anymore. It's not about one group overtaking another group for power, because that's all anything happened. People talk about the United States like, oh my God, we were oppressed in England, and then we came over here and we founded this nation on freedom and love and baloney. I mean, sure, there was probably oppression. They came over here, yeah, sure, but I mean, they came over here for freaking free land and to make more money than control people over here. I mean, it's ridiculous. And we created a system just as bad as theirs, if not worse. Like, we ran out of land, people. We're connected through the internet. We are globally connected as a society now, like never before in human history. It doesn't happen. Like, we're not going to have a civil war and like one side's going to overthrow the other side in the United States, and then we're going to live for another 200 years under different types of ruling that looks pretty on the outside with their message, while they're just trying to get control and money and power out of everybody. And then 200 years later, it falls apart. Like, we've done that routine over and over and over and over and over again through society, throughout the years. Like, we're past that now. This is a global transition. We're creating a new reality, because the one that we've been living for the last 100,000 years is ego-based, and it's a lie, and it doesn't work. So now we're creating a new paradigm based in love, and this is how it's going to work. Where our vibration raises, there's more love in the world collectively. More people start awakening because the vibration is lighter, so it's easier for people to awaken to this type of thinking, and then they come on board, and it spreads grassroots like wildfire, man. And that's what's happening now. It's happening so fast. Check out my last podcast, or the one before that, something like that. I talked about this spiritual awakening, how fast it's happening, and the evidence, right? So, like, we're literally saving the world here. So you get a better life short term. You get a better life long term. You get better lives for your children. You are basically creating a new paradigm that's going to save the world. Other than that, there's really not too much benefit to it. It's everything, man. This is why I like talking about this. Some people, I understand why some people like other things. Like, I think I heard somebody talking about music, and they were like, music is the soundtrack of your life, and it's vibrational, and it can change your mood and all this stuff. And they're like, it's huge. It's so impactful. And I'm like, yeah, I get why that person likes that, because it's everything to them. From their perspective, it's everything. From my perspective, I think the reason that I like spirituality is you can kind of draw a line from my extremism. I'm very extreme. So I tend to go all the way with things. So, like, when somebody goes, hey, music is like amazing, and it's like, it's everything. It's like, well, is it everything? Well, not technically everything. I mean, there's art too. Art is huge, and it can express, and it can actually change things because of messages. Oh, okay. So art can be everything. Yeah. And then something else can be everything, and something else can be everything. See, so to me, those were all compartmentalized. And while I can have respect for them, and I can really see value in them, for me personally, the thing I felt natural to latch onto was this: spiritual principles. Why? Because of what I just explained. Because it's everything. Like, if you're not happy, then it doesn't matter if you're a good musician. How many musicians have killed themselves because they weren't happy, right? Like, so boy, yeah, music is everything. Oh, I'm dead. Well, it's not everything now. No, because you weren't freaking happy. Now, if you were happy and you embraced music, you would have had an awesome life. So I like it because, to me, it's the root of everything. Happiness. It's the foundational principle for everything. If I'm not happy, I don't give a crap how much money I have. I don't care how much I like my hobbies. I don't care anything. Nothing makes me happy. Happiness comes from within. So this is, to me, it's the foundational, it's the cornerstone that everything else butts up against. It's that happiness. That's why I like it. It's that one cornerstone, like in an archway where you got that one cornerstone in the middle, and all the other rocks, they put that one in the middle, and then they put the rocks on the side. And the pressure actually pushes into that middle one and suspends it in midair. And that is the thing that is holding all the support. It's that one center cornerstone, that keystone, right? So like this is, to me, that's my perspective. It doesn't have to be yours. But I think most people, if their mind is open, they'll understand what I'm explaining, how important it is. To me, it's the cornerstone. If I have that, then I can enjoy everything else, and it makes life worth living. And I can, yeah. It's, so to me, it's the deepest thing I could find. It's the most important thing. It encompasses the most, because without it, to me, you have nothing, So that's how important this is. All right, peeps, I've gone on long enough. So thank you for participating, watching, listening. And I think that's going to do it. I'm just going to stop. It's almost an hour and a half, man. Woo. All right. Thanks, guys. Talk soon. Peace.
Looking for more? Check out over 200 episodes of Life Lessons in Laughter, or click the link in the description of this episode to connect with Glenn directly.